Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I was about to start a new project, and so that is this project. We have this space down in our basement that we planned on it being a bedroom at some point in time. We just weren't ready to do it when we first built the house and moved in. Our kids were still pretty young at the time and she wouldn't have slept down here anyways. But my oldest daughter is now clamoring for her own room, and while I was trying to just wait until she would move out of the house eventually, and then, oh shoot, I was just about to get to it. Now, I guess she saw right through that plan, so here we are. As you can see, I've already actually got a little bit done. I got these walls up as this is basically my doorway. A doorway into what this will be is just a storage area, continue to be a storage area, as it is already. And door into this room, door here, separating this from the living space area, what will be living space area. Now it's just junk storage area, unfortunately. So I got a couple walls here that I got to make. I'm going to be putting a closet over here. Don't worry about all this stuff. This is where the closet is going to be, but this stuff is going to be going away hopefully here shortly. I'm kind of in the midst of multiple projects, unfortunately, but that's just the way things go sometimes. Go watch the sad and disappointing tale of my HVAC system if you feel like judging me and telling me what I should have done instead of what I did. It's really helpful 5 years later. If you're curious about my foundation walls, these are superior walls. I talk about them in another video, as well as tell you how I prefer to frame up these corners, because I have to do this. They don't come that way. So if you want to see that video, links up here. Should be. I think that's good on the introductions. I'm going to go ahead and get some chalk lines down for these walls, and then, yeah, I think I can start cutting some wood. Okay. I think it's always a good idea to mark your stud spaces on the top and bottom plates at the same time. One, because then you only have to measure once, and two, you know all your studs are going to line up. So as long as your end one or whichever one you measure is plumb, they should all be plumb. Obviously, remember, whenever you're putting wood down onto concrete, you need to use pressure treated wood due to any moisture coming up through the concrete. Your studs don't need to be pressure treated. Mine are, just because I got this wood for free, so I'm using it. And along with that, whenever you're using pressure treated wood, you need to make sure you're using pressure treated wood rated fasteners, whether that's either galvanized nails or screws, or if you're using any other kind of screw like a deck screw, a coated, screw with an exterior coating on it. Okay, everything is plumb this way as well as this way. So I'm going to go ahead and nail it up to the bottom of my joist here and secure this thing in place. As well as I got to get the anchors in the floor. Obviously, a plate level is very helpful in a situation like this because this is exactly what it's made for, going from plate to plate while cutting out any odd undulations that might actually be in the studs. So it's obviously very helpful for this, but I don't expect people to actually have that. I never expected to have this myself. The only reason I do is because I want it for building a barn, hopefully, eventually, some point in the future. And I just happened to find it on sale, and I had some gift cards. I was able to get a very good deal on it. That's the only reason I even got it. So I don't expect anyone to have that. Normally, I'd have a 4-foot level, because that's actually the longest I have other than this. So I've done all the rest of my walls and everything else with a 4-foot level, and it's been perfectly fine. So if that's all you have, don't worry about it. That's plenty. As you can see, I left this last stud off because I have this sheet of plywood here that all this stuff was connected to. This is going to go away. When this goes away, after that stuff goes away, this stud's going to go right there. So that's the reason I left that off, but it will be going on there in the future. Now on our bottom plates here, spanning across a doorway, what I would typically do, and what I think is just typically done by professionals as well, is you would span right across the doorway. You'd build your wall or build your door frame, you'd build all your studs and everything on here with this piece spanning across this, and then once it's all installed, you would just come back and cut out the section that's in the doorway. However, I'm gonna be a little bit stingy, as all of my pressure treated wood is the stuff that I got for free, and it's all longer, and I have over 8-foot ceilings down here, so I need longer than, you know, typical 8-foot studs. So I'm just trying to ensure that all of that gets used where I have taller studs going. So yeah, I'm being a little bit stingy, so it takes a little bit more time and thinking to do it, but it'll be okay. So my bottom's set, and now up here, you can see I got a clamp in place here holding this plumb, and now I'm gonna set some cross pieces in here between my joists that I can screw into from down here and hopefully hold the top here in place. And you may be wondering why I have two different heights here, and I will show you that right now. So right up here on the other side of my beam, I have my house's main drain line, as well as a couple other drain lines that come in from like my master bathroom here. And I didn't want to cover those up. I wanted those to still be accessible and serviceable in case I needed to get at this or repair, maintain any of this stuff in the future. Because what I plan on doing is boxing around this beam here. So I'm gonna go across the front and then down the bottom here, all the way to the back wall. And I'm just gonna completely drywall this over on this side. I'm gonna leave it obviously open on that side. Now I could have gone short the entire way and just left this entire thing open, but I thought this would be helpful at least to have a part of it being all the way up to the joists, and that way I could secure the wall to the joists and then help just to sturdy the entire wall. Alright, I'm pretty much done with my framing. I've got some extra blocking in for drywall, and now I'm ready to start throwing in some electrical boxes. Now when going and buying electrical boxes, I think it's just smarter to get the deeper boxes. It just makes more sense. It's not that much more. It's just going to make your life easier, especially when it comes to GFCI outlets, which I have to do because this is a basement, and GFCI outlets are just big fat fatties and they need a lot of space. So yeah, just do yourself a favor and get the deeper boxes. And if you are going to be doing your own electric, obviously you need to be careful, but also just to help with regards to like actual design or layout of outlets and things like that, how to set up circuits and laying things out, breakers within the panel, I highly recommend this book. Now this is a few years old. This is 2017. This is back when I was wiring my house. So I'm sure there's a new edition out by now, but this was a massive help in terms of what code is, but then also Like there's what code requires, but then there's kind of simple things that can just make everything better by simply going above and beyond a little bit, you know, in a few different ways. But that book was extremely helpful in my father and I wiring my entire house and getting approved, no problem. So there's some code rules that you obviously need to adhere to when laying out outlets and things like that within a room. I think it's like within 6 feet of a door, and then like every 12 feet after that. But then there's obviously going beyond that and actually thinking about what you're going to do with the space and where you would want to have outlets to better do what you want to do with the space. Obviously this is a bedroom, so we got to think about, okay, where are we wanting to lay out the bed and side tables and things like that. Obviously, okay, we got side tables. We're going to want outlets near side tables, so for charging of stuff, plugging in a lamp, whatever. You don't want to just throw outlets in places. You obviously should think about what you plan to do with the space, and then obviously it has to adhere to code at the same time. But yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say. These are the boxes I got for my steel studs on my exterior wall. You can get metal boxes, you know, very similar to this, but I don't like to use metal unless I have to. For these, I'll be using sheet metal screws, and I'll just screw them right into the side of the steel stud like that. Pretty simple. And for some reason, and don't ask me why, it was 5 years ago, I can't really remember, but when I installed all my outlets, I put them at 18 inches up off of the unfinished floor. Like I said, I don't remember why I chose that. It wasn't in that book as far as I can remember. So I don't remember if I heard it somewhere, read it somewhere, or if I just chose that because I liked that height. The method that I believe is often used by a lot of electricians is by simply using your hammer. Placing the hammer on the bottom plate of the wall and setting your box on top of that, and boom, that's the height. Now obviously you want to be using the same hammer if you're going to be doing this, or else you could have different height outlets all over the house. This method, I assume, just makes it easier. You don't have to measure, you just sit your hammer down and nail your box in place. I think the reason I didn't do that is because when I did that or looked at it, it didn't seem high enough for me. It seemed a little low, so maybe that's why. Like I said, I don't remember. But 18 inches has worked fine for us, so that's what I'm going to continue doing here. My method's obviously going to take a little bit longer, but that's okay. So I went ahead and drilled out all my studs. It's just me drilling a bunch of holes, so you didn't need to see that. I do most of all my holes with just a regular paddle bit. I think it works plenty good for me. However, sometimes you may need an auger just because of the length. Like up here, I was not able to get my drill with the paddle bit in between the studs, so I had to go through 2 of them with this to be able to actually get the holes drilled. So you may run into some spots where you need an auger bit like this as opposed to just a paddle bit, so just FYI. Because of how I'm doing this, and because I'm going to have these walls open on basically every outside spot, I might just wait until after I drywall altogether to even run some of my wiring here, because I don't know, it might just make it easier for me to just do it, or it's not any harder to do it later. I got a roto zip tool for drywall, and one of those bits so that you can just throw the drywall up and then you can zip the box out after the fact. If you don't tuck your wires in there real good, you can nick wires. I had professional guys nick and cut wires on some of my wiring when we had the house built, so even professionals can screw up. Then we had to fix their mistake by running a new length of wire because they actually cut it to where it was too short to even use. So, but yeah, that might just make it easier for me to just run the wires after the fact once I get drywall up. So yeah, I might do that. But other than my exterior wall, I do need to get this. The wires at least in there before throwing drywall up. Okay, funny story. So about 8 hours after I said I wasn't going to be running electrical until after I did the drywall, I had nothing else to do down here, and I completely forgot I said that, and I started running electrical. And then part of the way through that, I remembered that I said that, and I figured, well, shoot, I've already started it, I might as well finish it. So I did. I ran all the electrical. It's fine. People most of the time run electrical before drywall. I was just doing it so that I wouldn't have to worry about the wires in case I didn't shove them in far enough and I roto zipped out and I ended up cutting a line or nicking a line or whatever. It'll be fine. I just thought I would avoid that, but whatever. I forgot. Now, I was always planning to do my exterior wall, as obviously I have to insulate that, and I'm not going to be able to access that after I drywall, so that at least needed to be done. But in doing that, I ran into an issue that I wasn't quite expecting. I thought I might have a little issue with it, but I wasn't expecting it to be as much as it was. So let me tell you about that. Okay, so that whole bit where I explained everything there, I didn't record. When I thought I was pressing record, I was actually pressing stop, and when I thought I was pressing stop, I was actually pressing record. So I recorded all the in-between space instead of what I actually wanted to. Oh well, let's do it again. It's actually been a minute since that last shot, by the way. I've had a lot of other stuff going on, and I've done a whole lot more in here, actually. I'll get to that before we get to the drywall. But let me go on and tell you about this. So obviously, when I originally talked about this, I didn't have insulation. I clearly do now. I didn't show that in this video. I made a whole separate video for that. If you want to see that, click up here somewhere. So these walls come with cable chases built into them, so you can run wiring through here. But these sections here, which I requested when I ordered my superior wall panels, are solid concrete and are only insulated a little bit here on the inside. That's for other reasons unrelated to any of this. They still had a cable chase that ran through from both sides. However, and I assume this is just because of the manufacturing process and the fact that these are like solid concrete as opposed to a typical wall panel, these were all basically blocked up. Where those holes met at this joint here, they were blocked up with concrete. So I couldn't get anything through. I had to get a long enough masonry bit to actually drill through from this side and drill myself a hole through there. And eventually I finally made it through, but it was a pain in the butt. And so my original plan, obviously, was to run wiring through here to this outlet and then through that one to that outlet. However, when I tried to get through this one, I did not have the same amount of luck. I could not get through this one no matter what. This whole channel was like cocked up or down, I can't exactly remember, but I could not get through. So I ended up having to go wire this stuff from this outlet over here up and then down here, and I was able to get that outlet that way. But I got it. It was just a pain in the butt. So that was that whole fiasco that I ran into with that stuff. But that's done, the insulation's done, and as I said, I've done a little bit more work since the last time we spoke. For you, seconds ago. For me, several weeks ago. If you take a look over here, you can see that all of my old system is completely gone. I removed everything, the plywood, all of it. It's pretty depressing having to pull all that out after all the work done to put it there, but it is what it is. My new Mr. Cool units are actually performing pretty well so far. So far, just in the basement alone, it's been warmer than it's ever been in my basement. We've had some pretty cold days already just in November. So far, the new system is doing pretty well and warming the house better than the previous one was. But anyways, that's gone. I've got wiring in here. I got wiring here, an outlet box for the lights whenever I, get lights into here. And I've got the framing complete here, this back wall, as well as this bulkhead here going around my I-beam. Also, and I think this is the last thing, is something that I often forget and can overlook, and you may as well if you're ever building studs and walls and then gonna drywall, is there's a lot of spots that you might have to have nailers for the drywall, or obviously screwing, whatever. But you might have corners here. In building the wall, I don't have anything here for the drywall to land on. So you got to put up these nailers so that you actually have something for the drywall to land on and to screw into. So I had to do that here. I had some up here that I had to do, obviously around the beam here, which I'd done before, and then primarily in corners. So I had one right here. I had to put one behind this final stud here in that wall. So several spots where I had to have a nailer for my drywall. That stuff can be easy to overlook, at least it is for me. So that's something to think about if you're going to be doing any of your own projects like this. So I really think I'm ready to go with drywall. I'm just nervous about getting started. I'm almost like just putting it off because I'm scared of getting to it and then realizing I missed something. Even though, like I just said, I can still access the backside of most of these walls, so it's not even really that much of a problem for me. But I don't know, I just get nervous about stuff and I then start putting things off, and I don't know, I cause problems for myself. But I really think the drywall is ready to go. So let's just jump right into it. All right. Yep. Okay, since drywalling is pretty boring, I went ahead and finished most of it already. As you can see, I've got pretty much this section of the wall left to do and the closet. And I wanted to show you one thing here before I finally finish this up, because I've got one outlet box here left to cut around. And I wanted to show you how I do that and what I think is the best way to do that. So let me go ahead and get the sheet on, and then I'll show you what I do. Okay, so I'll get the board in place and I'll screw in some places up towards the top of the board, staying away from where the outlet itself is. That way I'm not like trying to force the drywall in there, and then once it actually gets, you know, able to go flush, then I'll have to re-screw in some stuff. Just to avoid that, I just screw in away from the actual outlet itself. So right here is where like about center or so of my outlet is. At least that should be inside the box. So what I use is a roto zip tool. Obviously, if you want to do something like this, then it's the added cost of this tool, but I've used this quite a lot. If you expect to be doing a lot of drywall work like this, or I mean, there's other stuff you can even do with it. There's different attachments and stuff. But what you got to do is get a specific type of drywall bit. Actually, it's just called a drywall bit. And so what it has is a tip that's just rounded over. So it's essentially just a round shaft. It doesn't have any cutting edge at the very tip of this bit. That way, when it goes through the drywall, you can actually ride that edge along the side of the box and it shouldn't cut into it at all. So let me show you how I do that. So as you can see, it really was that quick and easy. That's why I really like this tool. As long as you're steady and methodical, you can get really nice holes cut out for your outlets without having to really do any measuring other than rough measuring, just so you know where to start with. You can see this top corner here, I did get a little, I was going a little too quick and I got up there, took a little extra out than I should have, but that's not too bad. If anything, if I need to, which really a plate would still cover all that, but I could still cover that with mud. You do want to be steady and, you know, methodical as you're doing it to try and just keep yourself along that edge, following everything. Don't go too slow, because then you can start, I think, burning the edge of the box and stuff like that, even with that smooth shaft in the end. It's still going pretty quick and it can still burn this plastic. But if you're not going smooth and steady, you can end up with boxes that look a little like this. But if you're steady and conscious of what you're doing, they can look a little more like this. So yeah, that's how I cut out outlets. I think it's a lot easier than using a handsaw or trying to measure ahead of time and cut things out. Obviously, like it says, yeah, you got another tool to buy. But if you plan on doing a lot of work like this, or even some different stuff, check out the attachments and things like that. It's a nice tool to have in your arsenal. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, probably get this one up, and then I got one more thing to show you in the closet with something in there. Okay, so coming into the closet here, I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different here with how I fasten the drywall to these studs in here, because I'm gonna be installing a closet system in here. I don't know exactly what I'm getting at or how I'm gonna put that up, but I just wanted to make sure, well, whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna be installing it, you know, into these studs and probably even anchoring a top anchor something up into the sill plate up there. So it should be plenty fine. But just in case, I wanted to give the drywall some extra, hopefully some extra strength in its adhesion fastening to the wall. I'm going to be using just some construction adhesive, some heavy duty liquid nails on every one of these studs with the drywall. I think Superior Walls actually recommends that like all the time, but I wasn't really worried about that with these walls here because nothing's going to be hanging on these walls at all. These have nothing to do but hold the weight of the drywall itself, which I'm not concerned with because it's fine elsewhere in the basement. But nothing's going to be on these walls other than maybe a picture or a small shelf, something like that. So these have no actual weight to bear, you know, with the drywall itself. body, the drywall is done, and that's going to be it for this video. Well, obviously not that piece. I was going to do something different with the electrical up here. That's why I was kind of waiting on that one, but I think I changed my mind. So I think I'm just going to be covering that up here shortly as soon as I get some help actually getting it up there and holding it in place. But yeah, other than that, we are done, and I'm going to be moving on to finishing, which I hate, but that's going to be for the next video. However, I did get a new tool, device, something that will hopefully cut down on drywall dust. So if you want to see that, be sure to come back and check out the next video. But aside from all that, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, come back for the next video, and I'll see you next time, guys. God bless.